Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. If you enjoy the content, please leave a comment below, thumbs up and subscribe. So we're finishing off this week with some of the games I've selected from the different European team championships, and today we have a really cool game featuring Emil Sutovsky, a grandmaster rated just under 2600, playing with the white pieces, from Israel, and Alec Gershon, another grandmaster playing for the other Israel team, and Alec is rated 2430 nowadays. Now both of these players are veteran players. They're no longer in their peak as players. Sutovsky was a 2700 top 10 player at one point in time. He's actually working for FIDE now as a CEO, whereas Alec is more on the commentator and other things side. But both of them very, very strong players at their peak, and still strong forces to be reckoned with when they're playing for the team championship, as is the case. This is Ashdod Elite Club for Emil and Hapoel Fazaba for Alec. Now what are we going to see in this game? We're going to see a Sicilian, an offbeat Sicilian, and I really like how Emil plays this game with the white pieces. I think you can learn a lot from this game, how to construct a Maroczy bind and then play very sharply and aggressively for the initiative, and some nice tactics at the end. So pay attention to this video, enjoy and have fun, get better. So Emil plays e4, and Emil has played e4 all his life. I mean, he's a very principled player with the white pieces, always open Sicilians, and has a ton of experience in these lines. So for Gershon to play against Emil this line was a surprise. Actually, it's funny because I was both with Emil and Gershon in Cyprus recently, and we were having dinner, and we were talking about this game. But I hadn't seen it, and I only saw it afterwards. But they were like, oh, and it was a fun moment for for all three of us. And I found the game afterwards, and I thought, this is okay for my channel. D4, and this offbeat queen b6. Now, Alec, I consider you a friend, so I hope you don't mind me showing this game. It's more to feature what can go wrong if you're not playing best moves with black in an open Sicilian. I think everyone can understand. Sometimes games just don't go our way, and of course Alec is a very strong grandmaster in his own right with a fantastic sports curriculum, so no shame at all losing games. I'm the one who loses most miniature games. So queen b6 is actually quite an interesting line. Maybe not the best line to play against Emil, because the sort of position that arises, I think it's more to Emil's taste. If I had to play against Emil, I'd probably try a Caro-Can or maybe e4, e5. Probably not Sicilian. In any case, hitting the knight pushes it back to b3. And now, normally white plays either knight c3 or bishop to e3 in this position. Mostly knight c3, and this is the line that Gershon probably had prepared most. Now, normally the knight comes to f6, pawn goes to a6, the queen does drop back to c7, but we have pushed the knight away from d4 to b3, and that is very good against a strong aggressive player. You get the knight out of the way. Emil plays a3, and I actually like this move a lot, and I'll probably put this into my own repertoire. I checked with the computer, it's perfectly okay. At no point worse than knight to c3. And it gives us the extra opportunity to go for a Maroczy bind with c4. So I think I'm going to put this one in my repertoire. Now, what should black play here? I have the feeling that he should go straight away knight to f6, hitting the pawn. And now if we want to play the Maroczy bind, we have to protect the pawn first with bishop to d3, which is okay. But I think knight f6 is the way to go. Gershon played queen to c7 straight away, which is okay. Bishop to e3, and now again he could have played knight to f6, I think, hitting the pawn and maybe forcing either knight to c3 or bishop to d3. I suspect that Emil would have gone bishop to d3. Maybe even f3. But the thing is, with bishop to d3, black might be able to get in d5. So I think the best move is knight to f6, forcing knight to c3, and here a6 and continue in this fashion. Gershon played a6, and this does allow c4. And I think that white has emerged with a better position from the opening. And more importantly, the queen to b6 line with black shouldn't allow white to prepare to get a Maroczy on the board. It shouldn't allow white to get a Maroczy. So I already suspect that maybe Gershon wasn't feeling too comfortable here. Knight to f6, knight to c3. Of course, the game is okay. Black can't play bishop to b4, which because of the a3 move. He could have played bishop to d6, but this is a weird move, which is theoretical. The engine says it's okay, but if you're not used to this position, it's not an easy move to make. And actually, Gershon goes b6, but by now I'm sure he realized that he hadn't finished the opening in the best manner, because after rook to c1, already white has these knight to d5 and knight to b5 tricks, which are very typical in these Maroczy lines. So white is already clearly better here. Now, knight to d5, we could move the queen away as long as the b6 pawn is protected. So Gershon plays rook to b8, so as to play something like this against knight to d5, or even queen to d8. I'm not sure which would be his choice. Hi, my name is Michael Rehal, and I'm an international master and FIDE trainer. And I'd like to welcome you to my Chessable course, 1E4, a positional repertoire for club players. This positional course is based heavily on two of my favorite 1E4 players. Former world champion Anatoly Karpov and top English grandmaster Michael Adams. The moves are simple, the structures are sound but aggressive at the same time, and you won't find any chaos or dynamics in the lines, but sound attacks based on solid opening principles. I'm going to offer you some unique perspective in some of the different defenses black can take on, and after you finish the course, you'll be well prepared to play against any O2B player with good results with the white pieces. Of course, if you capture the knight, then sometimes you're in for a big problem, because white is blasting open the position with a huge lead in development. So this is always very good for white. The problem with rook to b8 is that he's moving a lot of pieces on the queen side, and white can now attack through the center. And very well played, Emil f4. Now, Emil has a very nice sense of the initiative, and he understands that he has to play for f4 and e4, e5 now that black is underdeveloped. If he goes bishop to e2, I'm just saying, something like this, something not so fast, although white will be better, he may have lost his chance to go for a strike. So Emil plays f4, very good move, threatening e5. And now bishop to e2, not so much to castle, but to play bishop to f3 and threaten e5. And I think Gershon definitely goes wrong here. I checked with the computer, bishop to e7, knight to d5, queen to d8, take, take. Now this is a comfortable position for white. White is better, there's no doubt about it. Two bishops, more center. But black can still hold this position, I think. With certain difficulty, but he can still hold. But after Gershon's move, queen to b7, I understand that he wants to move away from knight to d5. But he puts his queen on a square, which definitely will be a problem in the future. And now I dare say I can't really say he's lost, but already this position is very, very difficult to play. Very difficult. He goes knight to d7, again neglecting development, but trying to stop e5. But the thing is, Emil gets in e5 anyway. You can sacrifice a pawn here because the initiative is very strong. Pawn takes pawn, and now knight to b5. Now this is a very strong move. The knight can't be captured because c takes b5 and the knight on c6 is doomed, and white is completely winning. And so this in practice is a very strong move. The computer finds a way to defend, but it's very difficult to find in practice. And that's why I think the knight to b5 is the move that Emil already thought of before playing e5 and executed on his next move. However, the computer suggests another very strong move, which maybe Emil didn't see because he already had knight to b5 planned out. Now, if knight to b5 wasn't a possibility, then Emil would have found for sure the computer move, which is c5, with the idea that b5 loses to knight to a5 with the pin, and knight to c5 take. You have to take with the bishop, with the pawn knight to a5 again. And this position is completely winning. And also not only completely winning, but completely winning and very fast and very safe. So c5 is a killer. Whereas knight to b5 is very strong. But if Gershon had found the move f5 here, threatening e4, he would have been able to hold on. I mean, he's still in a very bad position, but I can see black hanging on in this sort of position. He can maybe hang on for a bit here, at least. Okay, he should be lost. He should be lost. White has the two bishops. But if black is able to find somewhere safe for his king, and maybe get his bishop and his knight out, he does have a passed pawn on e4, which is protected. I can see black holding on here if white doesn't play accurately. But it's a very difficult line to find. Gershon played pawn takes pawn, but this is just lost only because of knight to d6 check, and the bishop is poisoned. Of course, Gershon has to capture it, because if not, why did he go into this position? But already black's position is crumbling. Castle, the rook's coming into play. There is a pin which is decisive here. The king can't castle. A classical open up the center and punish the black king game. King d8, and after rook fe1, Gershon decided to call it a day because there's too many threats. Rook to e7 is a threat, rook to d1 is a threat, knight to d4 and to f5 is a threat. Black's completely lost. He can't play anything. For example, queen to c7 just allows mate because the queen takes away the escape route. And rook to e8, which maybe is the best move to hold, we just capture the rook and play knight to d4. And now we're threatening both knight to f5 and rook to e1, and it's basically game over. So I really hope you enjoyed this game. A warm, affectionate thanks to Emil and Alec for letting me show this game. Emil played very well in this game. I mean, he played as if he was in his peak. You can check out some of his games from 2003, 2004, 2005. I mean, he was playing very, very high level chess. Now he's on the organizational side more. But as you can see, every now and then he steps into the arena with excellent results. Hope you enjoyed. Have fun and see you in the next video.